Hello, I am Professor Megadon. Now, we will be focusing on monster species, and sometimes certain members of said species, in order to help you survive and maybe thrive within the new world today, considering how drastic changes have been. So, without further ado, let's get right to it, shall we? Now, today's species will be about the Guardi species. Records from ancient past have found that the Guardi species once coexisted with humans, but now there are very little left. Their diet seems to be mostly of plant matter. However, they will also feast on carrion and any rotting remains there are, assuming how available it is. And they don't seem to mind the drones watching over them as they eat. And they seem to have coexisted with other monsters as well, assuming that those said monsters aren't bothered by them, seeing how friendly Guardies are to others. As seen here with one such Guardi with a shepherd on, a species we will find out later on. However, if a Guardi sees two other monsters fighting or under a territorial dispute, then it will stay away from the fight or simply observe from a fair enough distance, as to not get disturbed or rather hurt in the violence. And not all monsters are willing to be with Guardies, as seen here with a Nezutron. But there is a Guardi nearby, and the Nezutron sees it as a threat. And if they see them as a threat, then the Guardies will leave. As said before, they existed with ancient humans, but now there are so few of them that it's very rare to see them. That said, if you do encounter a Guardi, be sure to keep a distance as not to be accidentally crushed by its size.
Well, that was fun, wasn't it? Well, now that that's out of the way, I think it's high time we got into the review, but before one more thing before I get into the review, I just want to apologize about the blue monster in the video. It wasn't Nezutron, that was Leoto. I'd just like to apologize on that. I may have got some new generation monsters mixed up. So, yeah, I just want to apologize for that real quick. Now, without further ado, let's get right into the review, shall we? Here we have the 500 series Guardi, as you can see. Let's get into his backstory. So he first appeared in Ultraman Tiga in the episode The Inheritance of Shadow, I believe. Yeah, anyways, basically, someone became an Ultra, but then again, it wasn't an Ultra. Rather, a sort of dark imitation of one. That being Ultraman Tiga. And then the soul of the dog that tried to stop him, or rather the dog itself, its soul entered the statue that was the other statue that was in the room, and that brought Guardi to life, I believe. And after that, Guardi went over to stop evil Tiga, but it was to no avail. He tried biting him, tried to hold him down, but evil Tiga he wouldn't listen. And eventually Guardi, his color timer, as you see, started to blink, and he couldn't take any more. Soon Ultraman Tiga showed up, but I'm afraid it was too late, as Dark Tiga managed to do one more attack on him, and that took Guardi out. And that was the last time we see Guardi. And, well, when Guardi was, well, out, then Ultraman Tiga took his body away, and who knows, maybe he took it to the stars. But after that, we never really see Guardi after. So, yeah, I'm afraid that this monster, despite his guardian appearance, never got another chance. Not even in the later shows or even stage shows, as far as I'm aware. However, if there are some stage shows that he appeared in, or any other type of media that he managed to appear in after Tiga, sound off in the comments, because that may be none that I know. So, let's get into his abilities. well, the soul of a dog. You know, I'm starting to wonder if that dog is actually Guardi, but in a different body. So, yeah, that dog and Guardi, they may be the same thing. However, his history was rather short lived. So, yeah, I want to say being able to absorb souls and come back to life. Maybe that's an ability. But other than that, he also has fangs and he also has his durability. But we don't have any other abilities show up afterwards. So, yeah. I'm afraid that's all we have for abilities for Guardi. Now, let's get right into his articulation, shall we? As you can see here, he can rotate at the tail. His legs don't rotate at all, given this is a smaller figure. His arms can move up and down, but in a limited stance due to the armor. So, yeah, and his middle body can't move at all, nor can his head, as you can see. Let's get into detail now. On the back, you can see that it's completely unpainted, but around the front, it's very painted. His color timer, his chest, his head, but not his teeth. His eyes are painted, his horns, even some of his arms are painted. But the rest of the body not even the claws, which is quite the surprise. Or not too much of a surprise given the 500 series. So, yeah, and his detail, I'd say they did a good job. I feel like they could have made it a bit more rougher downwards on the tail, made it a bit more, or maybe a bit less thick. Maybe make it a bit thinner. That's just me. Anyways, and then you can see the detail pop over here on the back, which they had painted it. Same goes for the rest of the body, which they had painted everything here. But I'm afraid they didn't. And you could see right into his teeth. If I can get it. Yeah, there we go. It's a bit focused, so you can see right into his teeth. You can see these folds on his neck. See the color timer. That's been sculpted in there good. And it looks like it's a somewhat precise paint on there. So, yeah. And you can see that his chest armor kind of looks like the Tiga summoner. The Tiga Spark, I believe. So, yeah. Now, on to comparisons. Let's bring in one of the monsters he co-starred with. That being Dino Tank. Now, I feel like Dino Tank should be about this big compared to Tiga, so yeah, I'd say that's the only gripe I have, but that's for another time. Then here is Shepherdon. I feel like Shepherdon should be around the same size, personally, but, well, there we go. And here we have the monster which I confused the Nezudron name with, and it is Leoto. I tried to fix it in the video, but, well, yeah, all I could do was place it as a word. So, yeah. Apologies for mixing Leoto and Nezudron's names up. That's on me. And as you can see here, I'd say this comparison is actually pretty spot on. They can see eye to eye, have it out with each other. A bit of fun there. And for one more comparison, let's do it with a lesser-known monster with a more famous monster. Here is Gomorrah. And yeah, I'd say this is accurate. I'd say this is pretty accurate. Yeah. Actually, you know what? Let's leave him in there. There we go. A well-known monster and a lesser-known monster. How about that? So for my thoughts on Guardi, he's got some potential. Maybe some more abilities would help, and maybe he could be a sort of pet for the Ultras if the Ultra civilization ever allowed it. So yeah. And I feel like there was some other hidden lore within that episode, but there may be some that I am unaware of at this time. So sound off in the comments in case there's any lore I missed with Guardi. That could help make him a bit more well-known. So, yeah. Guardi has some potential, but, well, hopefully he lives long enough to where he isn't killed off by another evil Ultra. And maybe we could see him in a sort of Ultra Galaxy Mega Monster Battle remake. Maybe in later years when they decide to revive the series, but with a new protagonist, new monsters. Maybe see some new generation era ones fight some Heisei ones and Shaw ones. Yeah, that'd be something. We could have like Gomora fight Leota. We could see that again, or rather, see that for the first time. And then we could see Guardi maybe be on another Rayonix's team. Maybe that would be something. I mean, that's a good pitch for a show. I'd say. We don't get that many monster fighting shows. There is Ultraman, but that's more of a ultra hero, not an ultra monster. So yeah. So yeah, that's an idea to pitch. So yeah, that's my review on Guardi and also my Guardi species video. Sorry this took so long to do. Let's just say things have been very busy as of late on the real life scene. So until then, stay safe and be careful out there, and I shall catch you later. Or rather, catch these guys later. Until then, be sure to also like, comment, and subscribe, and please comment below if I missed any significant lore details about Guardi. So yeah, until then, stay safe.